Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Larissa Werneck, journalist and project coordinator of the Porvir team. And I'm delighted to present this first international webinar of the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow Latam platform, a dissemination channel for the program's finalist projects that seek innovative solutions for real problems through STEM methodologies. First of all, I would like to give you my self-description. I'm a white woman with blonde hair, I have blue eyes, and I'm wearing a blue shirt. Now, before starting, I want to remind you that the webinar has simultaneous translation in 3 languages, Spanish, English, and Portuguese. A globe symbol can be seen in the bottom bar of Zoom. Click on it and select the language you prefer. Now, back to the topic of our conversation today. This webinar marks the launch of the Solve for Tomorrow Latam platform. If you still don't know it, visit solvefortomorrowlatam.com to learn more about the program and also find the different resources to inspire and support the development of STEM projects. That is, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. With a STEM focus, the Solve for Tomorrow program develops educational activities to empower young people in the transformation of society. And today we have 3 educators from different parts of Latin America that have already taken part in the program, and we'll share with you the methodologies, challenges, and the stages for developing their projects. Many thanks to the teachers who are with us. Bárbara Rodrigues from Brazil, Carlos Felipe Zuleta from Chile, and Jesus Alberto Ramirez Bañuelos from Mexico. Teachers, thank you very much to take part in this first international webinar. Please, I ask you to make your brief self-descriptions to begin with. Bárbara, please. Hi. Hello, good evening. I'm a white woman with brown eyes. I have brown hair and I'm dressed in a white blouse. Professor Carlos, please. Good evening, everyone. I'm a brown-skinned man. I'm wearing a blazer. Good evening, everyone. A hug from Mexico. I'm a man with brown skin and I'm wearing a blue shirt. Thank you very much for your descriptions. Bárbara has mediated a project that uses animal manure and food scraps from the school cafeteria to make biogas. Carlos Felipe developed with his group of students a device that contributes to the inclusion of students with autism spectrum disorder. And the team that Jesus has mediated created an application that shows the status of transportation routes in real time. They're very different but equally interesting projects that are examples of how project-based learning can solve real community problems. The objective here is to inspire you by these stories. So feel free to interact in the chat and please put your names and country where you speak. Tell us if you're teachers, managers, or students so we can get to know you better. And if you have questions for teachers during the presentations, please write them in the chat and we will address those messages. At the end of the webinar, we will send a form in the chat for those who wish to request the certificate of participation. Before starting the discussion with the teachers, we invited Helvio Kanamaru, Director of Corporate Citizenship and ESG at Samsung for Latin America, to explain more about the new platform and about this initiative that has already been present in Latin America since 2014 and that has obtained the participation of more than 312,000 teachers and students from 20 countries. Elvio, Helvio is going to speak in Portuguese, but the interpretation is available for you in Spanish and English. Helvio, can you quickly describe yourself? Thank you for participating here. So tell us, after you describe yourself, about the objective of the new Latin platform. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. I'm Helvio Kanamaru. I'm a man from Asian origins. I'm dressed with a gray shirt this evening. Thank you, Larissa, for the introduction. The biggest objective of So for Tomorrow Latam is to register the pedagogical practices that were created by teachers of the public network of schools from over 20 countries in Latin America to, to teachers from all sorts of schools and sectors. But the biggest highlight of this platform is to be able to capture these brilliant ideas and pedagogies created by their peers and shared with all of them. This is very important because through this practice, you can have something applicable coming from other teachers from public schools. And with that, we can optimize our practice of teaching. And you as managers, administrators, you can take those practices to your students in the public network of schools. Above all, the platform aims at bringing recognition to the work of teachers. So I thank all of you in the name of Professor Barbara, Teacher Carlos, Teacher Carlos, and Teacher Jesus, because you spend your time making and building generations of students that will build a better world that we expect. And that is totally aligned with the view of Samsung in English that says Together for Tomorrow, enabling people, and we potentialize people so they can make important changes. So the platform is born with that objective of creating a database of best practices that can be replicated in the school, in classrooms, to bring recognition, the amazing work that teachers from the public networks create, and build references to other teachers. So thank you very much. Thank you, Helvio. Thank you very much. I'm gonna take advantage of the opportunity to greet and salute all the people that are following us with this webinar. We have people from all many countries in Latin America, Peru, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, many teachers, Pedro, Stephanie, Barbara. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, someone's name, Erica Francisca from Rio de Janeiro, Hugo from Venezuela, Carlos Espinosa from Mexico. So many people with us. This is our first international platform webinar, So for Tomorrow. And now, let's begin our conversation with Felipe, the teacher Carlos Felipe, at the Esperança de Quilpé School in the city of Valparaíso in Chile. Carlos is a maths teacher, but has mediated a project that goes beyond numbers. The name of the project is called Seekers of Silence, a practice that won So for Tomorrow Chile last year. His group had 5 young people aged 16 to 18, and together they made a tool that controls noise pollution. Thus, the creation reduces discomfort and learning difficulties for students with autism spectrum disorder, in addition to promoting empathy and awareness. Hi, teacher Carlos. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your presence here today. And I'm going to start with a question that we consider very, very important. So, and very something that is very valuable in project-based learning is inter and transdisciplinary knowledge. For you, what was it like to develop this device with the students, which also required knowledge of health and programming, beyond other knowledge, for example? Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here in this first webinar. The project goes way beyond maths, and we focus on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and obviously, we added a little bit of maths. And to be honest with you, it's really important to understand that has a real problematic that increased in 50% last year, in the past years. And this problem was involved with families that were facing difficulties because of a noise pollution and this oversensibility to noise of autist people. And we started to generate the springboard of the ideas for the solutions. We started conducting many research where some students would highlight, the results before and after, the application of the solution. Because before, when they had a break, some students wouldn't like to go out because there was so much noise and that wasn't pleasant for them. So we started to notice this impact of this noise pollution has on the students with autism, especially. So we then we faced, the problem through a healthy issue, evaluating how noise pollution can affect such students, and in considering that autism is a genetic condition, we decided to generate a device and awareness to bring empathy to the other people so they can adequate their noise, the tone of their voices. So rather than isolating the student and privating them from learning, we thought about what is our reality and how we can make every single student comfortable and with the same opportunity to learn. So our device was a step forward towards that goal. This is amazing, teacher. It's a very inspiring project. It's a pleasure to meet you. We are here sharing the link in the chat for everyone who wants to get to know better the project of teacher Carlos. Now, Carlos, do you think that putting your hands to work was also important to foster empathy among the students? In other words, it would be, tell students about difficulties that people with the autism disorder have. But another thing is to actually have them really involved with the solution, with the topic, right? As you say, we had activities, practical activities, and I recommend that, because students with autism, they're overstimulated through light, through noise. It's way more than what we, feel. So we simulated, to the regular students what autistic students feel like, and 8 out of 10 students couldn't take that for even 30 seconds. So it was a practical way of showing them how to be empathic, how to understand. And once they realized, how difficult it was, they became agents of change to bring a better quality of life to everyone. And this brings us, tools and a way to follow. But to every single one of you listening to this today, you have to be an agent of change and use, science and technology to change people's lives for the better. So this brings a potential national or international impact. So as you mentioned, there are people in different countries with the same difficulties. So in reality, maybe, in closed spaces, we wouldn't there's much you can do, in closed spaces about, this noise pollution, but in other spaces as well. So there's a moment where you can put yourself in someone else's shoes, occupy your place in this trajectory of change. Thank you very much, Professor Carlos, Teacher Carlos. We understand that this is a very important topic to us. Now, I introduce Bárbara Rodrigues, a teacher from Brazil who teaches chemistry at the Professor Sebastião de Oliveira Rocha School in the city of São Carlos. She also mediates a youth science club called Tesla. The acronym in Portuguese stands for Sustainable School Technology Connected to Arduino. So Barbara is also a mediator of the project called Tesla, won the Solve for Tomorrow Brazil in 2021. The teacher built this anaerobic biodigester together with a group of 4 students and with the support of the school's biology teacher. Now, the students were in the penultimate year of compulsory schooling, and the idea was to was inspired by another school project which calculated waste in school lunches. Barbara, once again, thank you very much for your participation. I'd like to start, since you're also a mediator of a group that encourages the participation of girls in the exact sciences, how important do you think is this type of promotion for gender equality in STEM? Teacher. Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank Teacher Carlos, Teacher Jesus, Helvio, and to tell you a little bit about the work we develop here. It's very important. We believe that it's important to incentivize these girls to, the exact science is equity. Because if you look at engineering nowadays, you have less than 10 girls per class, entering these courses. So we brought some girls to computer sciences and some others that are, seeking other exact sciences and engineering. And I think that is really important because they're very capable. They know computing, they know maths, and the only thing they lack is incentive. So we got to bring this culture that they are capable and not, the contrary. And the best of all is in this project and in the group Tesla, other girls, got inspired to also conduct their own projects. So imagine girls promoting knowledge and being recognized. So this is, great because other girls were inspired by this project developed, their projects. We were able to be recognized in 2001 and won the competition in Brazil, and the project is not over yet. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we are doing today. And you see, once again, I thank Soul for Tomorrow to incentivize such projects in our school. This is incredible. I'm a big fan, and I always try to incentivize other teachers to compete for the prize and to accommodate their projects in this with their students. Us, women, thank you very much for your work, in the exact sciences. So we talked about, in 2021 when your project won the competition. So a curiosity that we have with students that take part in such projects is, where are those students today? And in your opinion, do you think that this experience has made a difference in their academic lives? Well, most certainly, most of them that took part in Tesla project, they are in universities. Actually, all of them are in public universities, very renowned universities today, with working with engineering, physical engineering, materials engineering. And the biggest difference is that they get there ready. They know how to write a report. They have already mastered the labs, the research. So we have a student, for example, that starts with the scientific initiation.
and he's in first year, and a week ago he was in this big project in the University of Campinas, in the particle accelerator. So we're very proud of that. you know so myself and our partners at school, teacher that are partner with us, we continue working together and we foster those projects even more. And now, as a coordinator, I incentivize even more the teachers at school to take part in the project. Thank you very much, Barbara. It's a pleasure to be in touch with that testimony. Also, I'd like you to all know that in the chat there's a link so you can get to know better the project developed by teacher Barbara in Brazil. Now I invite teacher Jesus Alberto from College of Scientific and Technological Studies in the state of Mexico in Mexico Valley. Jesus is in charge of the school's Department of Educational Innovation and Extension, and the project is called When Does It Arrive?, which is the winner of the Soul for Tomorrow Mexico last year. The group putting to practice programming knowledge, creating an application that shows the status of transportation routes in real time. The students were 17 and 18 years old and were in the last years of technical education when the project was created. One of them was studying graphic design, and the others studied programming. Professor, Teacher Jesus, thank you very much for being here. Now, tell me, the first step in this project is to connect with challenges and the needs of communities. When you mapped out the problems that you could solve with STEM knowledge, what did you have in mind when choosing the final topic? Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. That's very important. What we had in mind when we developed the final topic, the epitome of what education must have is to transform students so they can have better quality in their academics, but also they will be able to make a better community as well. So we start always with that in mind when we develop STEM. Development, transformation of the communities. Another very important point is that what should we do with real problematics? So in Mexico, for example, in Chile, Patagonia, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, as teachers, we have a very important topic in mind: safety education. So nowadays, my students are very safe when they use public transportation, when they move from one place to another, because we realize that the three most populated states in Mexico, there are over 20 million people using public transport, on a daily basis. And they have problems about, they don't know when they will arrive, what are the means of transportation they'll be able to, to take, if there are delays, problems on the road. So we started to be more empathic with them to transform, the way we think about them, to transform the community. So we are glad to have here in our university, in our college, that we have two, very important courses, graphic design and programming. And, they start working the students very early through their courses. So our mission in the Lab of Innovation is to make it happen. And what is better to make it happen than transform our communities? Teacher, thank you very much. That is perfect. I'd like to let everyone know that there's a link to Teacher Jesus' project so you can get to know it better, all stages in detail. And please also send your questions in the chat, because at the end, we're going to read the questions to the teachers. Now, Susan, another important factor for solving problems at school is collaboration. Now, your project had not only the cooperation between the team, but also the school community. How were those alliances important in reaching the results? Well, here we have this motto: we are managers, we are innovators, we are creators, but we're not experts. For a project to reach its maturity and be transformative, we have to include everyone without fear. So I'm going to be very honest with you. When we develop, when we developed the app and started to show, our colleagues, the school principal, asked me, she told me actually, this is very interesting, very beautiful, but when we talk about transportation, we have to talk to drivers, to everyone involved. And I was really afraid when, the kids started, letting Paulo Rosa, the principal here, which I thank him very much for his support, by the way. So I was less afraid when they presented that, because once they verified that the project works, and so you see, I get in peace when they realize that they understand that they have to collaborate and also communicate with every strata in the school. Because ask yourself, what do you have? What is the cost of change of what you're doing? Ask yourself, what you're doing is working? Is it impacting people? The alliances with all agents involved are very important. So making this tangible is extremely important. So a problem like safety in transportation cannot be solved with only one player. We have to involve everyone, including authorities, because sometimes they will look at you and say, listen, you are the champions of the Samsung competition in 2023, but that's not enough. We have to involve, also the passengers and everyone involved to say your solution works. So a prize only is not enough. So we're happy with that. Teacher, that is really nice to hear. It's very important to understand the importance of collaboration in your projects. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone that is sharing your observations, your information in the chat. So please write your comments and questions. Now, for the second round of question, we're gonna have a brief video of the Soul for Tomorrow Latam platform. For those of you who don't know it yet, so you know a little bit more about this recently launched project with inspiring practices of teachers that are here with us today, and from teachers from over 20 countries in Latin America. You're gonna find best practices, tips, but also, tracks of learning so you can follow the journey of collaboration. The elaboration of the project, as all you can learn about that, is in three languages: English, Portuguese, and Spanish, so everyone in Latin America can access. Now we're back with the second round of questions. Now, the same question to all teachers. Now, what impacts have you seen in your schools and communities after participating in the Soul for Tomorrow program? Now we can start with teacher Barbara, please. Well, the impact was magnificent. No one believed that we would have such results, and that affected greatly the students in how they developed the projects. So the biggest impact that I noticed is the group of students that developed the project with teacher Mileni, with a culture of micro or organisms that were presented in UNESCO in the COPE last year. So all all this involvement with Samsung with the project foster that within their schools and show them that unattainable spaces like taking part in this competition in Dubai, was something out of question, but they realized that that was possible. So if it wasn't for this project, maybe that wouldn't be possible. And other projects in the school as well were fostered, through this prize that we won in 2021. So, Teacher Carlos, please, can you tell us a little bit about the impacts that the project had in your communities? Teacher, Teacher Carlos, can you hear us? Oh, sorry, I lost connection, but I hear you now. Thank you. Well, please tell us a little bit about the impacts you observed in the schools and communities after you took part in the Soul for Tomorrow program. Well, the biggest impact that Jesus mentioned was when doors start to open and you step out of the conventional teaching. Some people some people with us understand that testing may be a way of evaluating, but there are other ways as well to measure the abilities. So if you analyze the students we worked with, they start in a way and they end up in a very other way because they have very high technical skills in math, physics, but now they have skills for life with more potent abilities for the challenges they'll face in the future. Another important impact is what you mentioned in the beginning, how you create this consciousness with other students about the problem you're facing. More specifically in our project, autistic students that were oversensible to noise, and something that we didn't mention. We often don't think that we even solved the bullying project because they created more empathy. Thank you, Teacher Carlos. Teacher Jesus. Well, the impact for us was amazing because it was reflected in their colleagues, all students understand, they saw how they can win an international competition, learning learning and taking part in the same class as all the others. So everyone understood this that was possible in creating a vision to conquer the world. So they started to see in the TV, in their cell phones, and we went from a lab of 5 people to 30 people now. I don't have any more space. It's amazing. So thanks to you, the communication, the management, the government authorities as well. We got to thank it because we start collaborating with everyone, and of course we are together with Samsung. But that opened the doors to state authorities, municipal authorities, perfect, Teacher Jesus. This impact of the multiplication of students in your lab is amazing. It's a great result. We have a lot of questions here, so we're gonna read them, some of them at the end of the webinar. We are, just organizing the questions. Now we're heading to a second question to all of you. So after testing, what was like to organize and present a pitch? How was that process important to validate the project ideas? Teacher Jesus, please. For me, the pitch was the was the end of months and months of work. When we were at the final in Samsung, I told him, listen, it's now or never. We worked really hard. We spent nights awake. We cried, we laughed. So it's important because we have to be proficient now because there are very strong people here with us. So the pitch was 90% pride and emotion, 5%, breathing, and 5% memory. So sky is the limit. Teacher Carlos, do you agree with Teacher Jesus? Yeah, I agree with him completely. A smile is natural because, we went through something very similar. Remember that moment when we sat down and I had to, turn off my cell phone because, so many messages were arriving. And I mentioned to all the students that won the prize. I told them that we had to share, what we had, conquered. So you see, that was so gratifying. We had to take advantage of that to the last second. So I agree with everything that Jesus mentioned and the inspiration to other students as well. I'd like you to inspire you to think that your students are capable. We have to mediate that learning. Teacher Barbara, now you, thank you very much, Teacher Carlos. Teacher Barbara. I agree with all of them, the emotion through the presentation of the project. So 5 minutes of speech, is very challenging, but there's a peculiarity that I have to tell us. Our student that presented in 2020, she was very shy, and she, took that as a self-challenge. So she memorized the work, the project, and she conducted an amazing presentation. Since that was a post-pandemic project, it was even more important. And the emotional feeling, the emotional impact that we had was amazing because she overcame her difficulty in being shy, but also being amazing while doing it. I have a really hard time with that. I would never be able to do it. So you start understanding so many challenges and other difficulties, obstacles that people face. So she overcame her shyness. She's facing other goals now. So is by giving the opportunities to students and to promote the idea that they can reach success. You move beyond expectations. Thank you very much, Barbara. It's amazing to hear those experiences. Now to wrap up the round of questions, I'd like you to comment briefly for 1 minute each. What advice would you give to other educators who want to participate in this year's edition of the program? Now, you gave a lot of tips, you shared some other facts, but you have enough experience to help these teachers. So please, Teacher Barbara, can you start? Well, the tips that I give you is do not allow lack of resources to be an obstacle. Or our project is we had to bootstrap through all of it. So make sure you don't make that be an obstacle. So also create your partnerships. In our case, we have this elevator pitch that we present to people, businesses, and other schools and the government, so we can bring people on board, even to bring mentoring and also financing, because without those partnerships, we don't go anywhere. Also, if there are school managers here, I'd like to thank in the name of our principal, Zuleta, and the vice principal, Priscilla. I'd like to thank them all, and also my coordinator, teacher Isabella, because that is key for the development of the project, because without their support, nothing will be possible. So managers, principals, school admin support those projects. Even if the teacher's idea is crazy to you, please support that idea, despite how crazy it is, because it may win the prize. Throughout, the project, you will be able to polish those ideas and end up with a great project. Teacher Jesus, now you. Now, Teacher Carlos, Barbara, I'd like to, highlight, as you mentioned, resources are always very scarce. And problems, if you start talking about problems, we'll never leave this webinar. But the responsibility that you have over your students is really key. Ask the kids, ask the youth how they can solve the problems they face in that stage in life. What are their expectations? How they can reach them. And I had a teacher, that educated me in that way, and I bring that to my life nowadays. We have to be investors in our students' goals. We have to make sure that we're empathetic, and that we create and discuss ideas with them. And I'm sorry, Teacher Carlos, you said a very important sentence. If you do not allow students to dream with a better future, they will never allow us to rest. Thank you, teacher. Now, Teacher Carlos. Now, I make my words his words, or make his words my words. Sorry. Now we are, educating, creating leaders. So by making our students leaders, we generate autonomy and understand, all the problems that they face. But once you generate this autonomy in problem solving in the students, they will live through this technological area. They're way more advanced than we are. So we have to be a mediator and give a little push so they can fly with their own wings. That is a great tip. Don't fear failure, because we are frustrated. We actually wanted to give up some days, because of the challenges, but do not fear, because failure is an opportunity for you to grow. And that standpoint is very enriching in terms of learning. And also, there's a comment. Advice in terms of a pitch. So your first question, the first 10 seconds will dictate the rest of the pitch. So please, whoever asked about the pitch, captivate the interest of the audience in the first 10 seconds. And the rest is just letting people know about your experience. Thank you very much. Very inspiring words from all of you. I'm sure that you have helped here many teachers today. And for those who would like to subscribe, to enroll your projects in the competition, Teacher Carlos has already answered a question here. So now it's time to read other questions from the audience. But before that, understand that the form to request the certificate is in the chat. So I remind you that only those who request and fill out the form will receive the certificate. We received a lot of questions, so let's read some of them. I'm going to start with one that is related to the mobilization of students. How were you able to mobilize students in the beginning of the projects? Do you have like a tip or a best practice, a hint you can give other teachers of how to involve students? And an observation that people made here is that, so the project is very different from regular, classes. So how do you tackle that? What works really well with us here is to speak to them, as future professionals, not our students. So I always invite them to think as, a people that, for example, a graphic designer is passionate about, that professional, and it make his future start there, that point. I know they're teenagers, but if we start to give them, responsibility, you also increase their self-esteem, because they realize that they are professionals already and they will be able to conduct a project in the best way. They're proud to be part of the project. So we have to help students to develop their self-esteem as professionals. Teacher Barbara, now can you answer, please? No, let's move to other questions. Now, a question from Venezuela. Thank you, all of you. What is the main contribution of Soul for Tomorrow to beyond competency, where your projects acted? Well, I before answering that question, I'd like just to add something, because I think we can add to what Jesus said about how you manage that working team. As a teacher, we always understand, we always see challenges and the needs in terms of skills the students actually possess. A practical example. Now we are organizing a group where every student is a perfect part of the project. But it's also important to focus on observation, and observation as a way to evaluate how much they know, how much they can perform. And based on that, you can start making selections and prioritize ideas. So so students can observe, how similar the skills are to their colleagues or their peers in the past, and they can better organize themselves in teams. Now, in terms of the question now, in terms of the support of Samsung, that is vital, that is key, because without a disciplinary knowledge, Samsung promotes alignments perfectly for us to conduct the projects. Stage 1, stage 3, stage 4, and so on. And it's not only merely, something in terms of organizational, but you can also, raise your questions and clarify with them. So the project Solve for Tomorrow takes that very seriously, the development of skills of students as a society, how each one of us can, build a better world for tomorrow. Oh, thank you, Teacher Carlos. Now we have another question to Teacher Barbara. Teacher, how do you think that this experience in Solve for Tomorrow promoted the critical thinking of students? Now, thinking about that question, critical thinking comes from the resolution of real problems. All the projects we conducted had in mind the resolution of real life problems. So we try to understand how to base the solutions on the scientific thinking without the methodologies involved, grounded on real problems and methodologies, aiming at developing the student as a citizen that will be able to show, how he thinks about the world around him. And in the full-time learning program that we have at school, they had to face this project, Samsung projects, to amplify the protagonism of the students in school. And with that, we were able to develop students that are entering the professional market in the following years, and we'll be able to create a better world. And that's how we try to change the world we live in, by educating students and transforming them. And So Far Tomorrow is a tool that can help us in this mission, in this journey, with information, with a mentorship, with Paulo, also something that I'm a big fan of. You can have only an idea of a project. You can, just inscribe, enroll that idea in the project, and then you can develop it later. You don't have to be a ready, an MVP or a project that is ready. You can just start with an idea. So thank you, Teacher Barbara, for those who are with us. Now we have time for another questions. Another one last question. Now something that has to do with the answer that Barbara gave. Armando asked about critical thinking. How can you promote, or how can you foster creativity in the students? How can perhaps Teacher Carlos or Jesus can comment? Maybe both. 1 minute each. Let's go. Very well. Well, I think that creativity can be developed over time. That's something you have to work. Maths, in this sense, is a perfect springboard, because when you work with something related to the resolution of problems, you develop creativity, discovery of new skills by your students, and during that process, you can give them freedom to think, to ask, to contest. They are the cornerstone of our projects. So we have to promote that, the idea that they have to first be connected with one another and move towards that idea. And working with them is going to be very gratifying. At the same time, creativity to be worked, to be developed concretely, have to be part of our daily lives, with short challenges, but also achievable, because when you give a challenge that is unattainable, you can generate frustration. So providing challenges that have, more simple answers can also promote creativity. Thank you. Jesus, please. I think that after the pandemics, we promoted isolation in society. Now, in my case, for example, the students, when they entered, they had a deficit, a lack of social emotional skills. So you have to teach them how the world works. So social emotional skills, how to, work with frustration, how to write, because you forget that sometimes. Because when the student realizes that he can face the world, you can now give examples of how they can change the world and face the challenges, because you often have this incredulous way of thinking, and you have to be an example, you have to motivate them, you have to tell them that you can change, you student can change the world, but also you have to give them resources and tools of how to research. And Teacher Barbara, she understands that very well when you talk about Arduinos. Let's do that. Let's research. Let's learn how to work with that. From the research, you have to align the themes, the topics, the objectives. Like a small rocket, taking momentum, social emotional skills, understanding that these students are young, they will change over time, and they need support. And don't play around in YouTube or tutorials. No, start solving the problems. Thank you very much, teacher Jesus, teacher Barbara. Well, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our first international Solve for Tomorrow Latam webinar. This is a precious topic. We could talk about this topic much more, right? But the subject continues on our platform, solvefortomorrowlatam.com, where you can access and learn more inspiring practices. Thanks to the teachers, to the community, so for tomorrow, we have representatives here from Mexico, Dominican Republic, Panama, Barbados, Peru, Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil. Thank you very much. That is very important to us to know that our community, so for tomorrow, grows every day in the region. Teachers Carlos, Felipe, Jesus Alberto, Teacher Barbara, for your willingness to talk to us and share your experiences. Now feel free to make your final remarks. I can give you the word. Please go ahead, Teacher Carlos. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the opportunity to share in this very enriching event and listen, also learn with other colleagues. We gotta be brave to be an agent of change and understand that the person that is biased, that you sometimes you only greet, sometimes they face a problem that, a problem that through science and technology we can help solve. So become an agent of change, and thank you very much for the invitation. Teacher Jesus, now from the center of the world here in Mexico, send you a hug. A pleasure to have, the company of all these great colleagues, to have teachers here. Nothing differentiates us. Nothing can bring us apart. Remember, perhaps tomorrow you'll be here, your children will be here. We're prepared for 2024. Thank you very much. Teacher Barbara, I'd like to thank the opportunity. It was a pleasure to share this hour with Teacher Carlos, Jesus, Larissa. Thank you very much for mediating. It was excellent. And I make teachers Carlos and Jesus' words, my words. Please give a little push to your students, foster their curiosity, and that, because by that you are gonna make it happen. Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you very much, Samsung, and all its subsidiaries in Latin America for organizing the program in different countries. Helvio, once again, thank you very much for your participation. Would you like to make a last remark? So for all the teachers that take part in Solve for Tomorrow, that now have access to the platform, we were now, discussing, we're not discussing here if the student learned, the subject. We were talking about protagonism, and you teachers are innovators that will transform these students in better people. Thank you very much for taking part in the program. It is made for that, and the platform aims at supporting your work. Thank you very much. Thank you, Helvio. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you those who stayed here with us to the end of this webinar. Please fill out the form to request the certificate of participation in the link available in the chat. A big hug to all of you, and see you next time.